So, hello guys, my name is HellFirePvP, and today I want to bring you some information about the new update of CustomMobs version 4.0. This video is directed to people who have played or worked with CustomMobs before, so I will not go over all of the features, but just the most important changes and what you have to do when you want to update. So first of all, I just prepared an empty server installation. Well, nothing's in here except the CustomMobs plugin itself, and it just started it up one time to accept the oiler. So just gonna start it. So lots of spam going on. So one thing to note, the plugin doesn't need to patch itself, like patch the server. I changed a lot of things to world spawning, and that was basically the reason why it had to patch itself. So it's a lot more stable now, and I guess it's compatible with paper spigot, craft bucket, and so on again. Don't quote me on that, I'm not too sure about it, but I guess it will be. If not, I am trying to fix it whenever it comes up. So let's just get into it. Do I have to opt myself? I guess I have to. So, nope. So, there we go. Well, clean word, fresh generated, nothing's in here. One thing first, you can list all the commands and subcommands now by tab complete. You can also just filter depending on what you already typed in. And well, the commands are basically the same. I just I wanted to stay with them. So I only did a few little changes as the equip command goes. It now supports main-hand and offhand, of course. And potion, like this now supports all of the types. The mob types and potion effect types are now loaded depending on your Minecraft version, so updates in the future to 1.10 and so on will immediately load all the new mobs. And well, same goes for create. So let's just create some mob. I will go with the zombie because stuff is it's easiest to show on the zombie. Let's just call it test. And whenever like the command wants a custom mob name from you, just like let's just go with, it's easy. Well, just a spawn command, I guess. You can just tab complete it, like the same as it goes for the commands. You can tab complete the names whenever, like on the argument, the name, like the plugin wants the name from you. Well, nothing has changed there. Mob is still mob itself. I changed the command for cconfig. It's now called cspawn, simply that makes more sense. The command itself also hasn't changed, so this command is still long and huge and whatsoever. The plugin as in 3 point whatsoever also supports world guard, it supports factions. I am currently doing a quests, like for the plugin quests, a integration. So that will come up in the future, I guess in at least 1 week from now on, depending on when I actually release the video. And so that will be a thing too. And so that's as far as the in-game changes go. I guess that's all of it, yeah. So as you can see here now, the files haven't changed. So the cconfig /cspawn things are still in here. The spawner things are still saved in here. The /c respawn things are still saved in here. Oh, the leash stuff is still saved in here. There is still the full control stuff. It's just not enabled yet, but well, the folder would be also in here. The biome info file hasn't changed, it's still generating depending on the server version. If you want a new one, just delete it and restart the server, it will generate again. So the config file got a few new entries. Spawn is sort of still the same. Plugin metrics is now integrated and can be enabled, disabled. There is a debug mode. Well, there is not too much to debug. Prints, just a few startup things and so on. It is more used in the API. I will mention all the changes to the API at the end of this video. As you can see now, we support the plugin supports a language file now, which has to be saved in here. Like if you want another language file, it will search for this .lang. So if you want to change language files, provide the language file in here and name it like whatever the language file is called. The English_US file will still be used as fallback language file. So all the messages the plugin sends to you are defined in here, also for the tool. So, well, if anyone wants a specific language file, feel free to create one and send it to me. I'm gonna include it into the plugin. So, yeah, that's that. So world spawner tick speed, world spawn threshold, and world spawn frequency. The frequency is the same as the lowercase frequency as it was before. So, but the world spawn threshold and the world spawner tick speed are kind of part of the new spawning system. So let's just mention it like that. The tick speed is like the interval when the world spawner tries to spawn mobs in the world. So if you set this lower, like to, well, 1 tick basically, is the fastest. Like it will try, in this tick interval, it will try to find locations where it can spawn mobs on, depending on the server's spawn limit for certain mob types and so on. So, well, that's compatible with the server's limiting of general mob files. The threshold is a value that stands like kind of against the spawn limit, or, well, depending on how many mobs there are in the region already. So if we say like, well, thank you that there are no mobs spawning here now. Well, there we go. The lower you set the what was it? Yeah. The lower you set the threshold, the more likely mobs will spawn. And the higher this value gets, the less likely mobs will spawn. You can set it all the way up to 1,000,000. Then basically never ever will a mob spawn from the CustomMobs world spawner. And the lower you set it, the more CustomMobs will spawn. And if it found an actual location where all the conditions are met, we still have the frequency thing that will say like, well, this stands against a value of 100. So the lower this number is, or the closer it gets to 0, the less likely a mob will spawn, and the closer it gets to 100, the more likely a mob will spawn. I guess we can just see it as kind of percentage number, just like it was before. Spawner range is still the same, full control is also still the same. I'm just gonna set it to true so we can restart it and see what it does. Those two are also still the same. Leash violation tolerance is also the same. This is for workout integration, which is the same. Banned mob commands and spawn limit reset commands are also the same. So those are the changes to the config and, well, language file. then yeah, the changes to the mob files are a bit more severe. I basically changed the way the mobs are saved over from the flat file format that you could just open and edit over to the NBT format. If you open it up now in a text editor, you will have a very bad time. There are programs out there like NBT Explorer or related ones that will let you open those files. So as you can see here, you can easily edit all the things and so on. And everything, like literally everything about the mob and all the different mobs will be saved in here. So there will be no more data lost, like shield patterns and whatever you want to save will be stored. So that's changed. And along with that, you can now, there is like a new command. Whoops, back up. The cnbt command, like if you run out of options, like you want to change something that's, well, not defined in the normal cmob commands, that affects only specific mobs, like let's just create a skeleton. As you can see here, the wither skeleton thing kind of vanished. Let's just call it W skeleton. So if you would spawn this one now, it would be just a normal skeleton as you would expect. But however, you can set it over in the cnbt. You can just set it over to like whatever, wither skeleton or normal skeleton. And well, along with the tab complete changes, you can also now tab complete the available NBT entries of all the, well, basically it will look up what type of mob this is and will list you all the options you can set. So one option we want to go for is obviously the skeleton type. And let me guess, one is the wither skeleton. Yep. So that successfully changed the skeleton type. We can just change it back. And yeah. So there you go. You got a vast majority of more options you can do. And well, maybe to illustrate it a bit better, we can just go and create an ender dragon. God, I'm so bad at writing today. And well, if you normally would spawn it, well, of course it would do what, well, ender dragons do. Well, basically destroying all the stuff here. But we don't want that. We just say like, okay, this has no AI. And we also want it glowing because of reasons. And there we go. It has no AI and it has the little glowing effect whatsoever. So that is fully customizable and so on. How far the customizing goes is like, I basically configured most of the things you can specify. However, there are still things that are not accessible. And maybe to show this one, you can just type in something randomly and it will just say you that this entry is not specified, or no NBT entry name test is known for the mob type ender dragon by default, or basically what I specified. And yeah, we'll also tell you about the tab completer to enter it easily. And in 4.1, I'm intending to extend the NBT set command by set raw, which basically will allow you to define any NBT value for whatever reason in the game to the NBT tag of the mob. So it will get saved along with that in the mobs file. basically, well, in here. What else? Well, I guess that was basically it. The equip and drop things haven't changed so much. They are basically still the same. Maybe to illustrate that everything is saved now, you can just go and die this. And come on. 1, 2, and 3. You got a kind of complex shield. So, but as far as equipping goes, it's still the same. You have to equip it yourself at the slot you want to set it. So that didn't change too much. So whatever was test, I have no idea. Yeah, it was the map zombie. So yeah, it wears a shield in his offhand now. You can just set it to his main hand too. And be like double shield a zombie. That looks ridiculous. That was not possible before, simply because I didn't save all those patterns. But well, since all the data is saved now, it's also this one is possible. Maybe one note to map makers and whatsoever that want to use this for some reason in spawners or whatsoever. Whatever is saved in the item stack will also get saved into the mob file and will get loaded back into the item. So even if you define some custom values in the item stack, those will be saved and successfully loaded in game. So that's as far as changes go. Currently the old mob files are not loadable, meaning you will have to recreate all your mob files and will basically set the plugin up again. I'm not sure if I want to do a file converter, simply because all the old mob type strings, like the type names before, are not 100% the same as they are now. And some data is already lost in the old files, simply because I didn't save it back then. And so converting them over will also just lead to issues from like some mobs not having the correct drops or incomplete drops. Well, basically, if you set a shield before, the shield will still have no patterns, and people might complain about that. So in the end, I decided not to do a full converter, simply because the stability of it is not that great. So I guess that's as far as things here go. So then I'm just going over the API now. So the API changed from getting the plugin instance over to now a fully static way of accessing it. Those things are the same. Like those are still the spawn settings builder, set spawn randomly reset. So those are still the same. Spawner, you can now get all spawners. Setting the spawner is the same. Respawner, well, also still the same. You can get all spawn settings now, just for convenience reasons. Can still get all known mob types and still get the CustomMobs tool with this one. Now, creating a custom mob has a different, well, callback now. Can still be created with giving it a name and the mob type. And it can also be created with giving it a living entity, and all the data the entity has will be saved into the file directly. So if you see a mob and whatsoever, you can just save it directly. This is also what the custom mob tool uses. Well, almost a similar way. Not over the API though. So the name is taken. That's a given that this could be an issue. The type is not known. Something writing the file or whatsoever failed, and well, success. Getting the custom mob also did not change much. Name back to the custom mob. So we still got name here, entity type, spawning with, well, spawn limit exceptions. Getting drops, getting equipment, potion effects hasn't changed too much. Getting equipment is now also with main hand and offhand. Some utility functions here. Got the unlocalized representation and the localized representation in case you need it for whatsoever. So now we get to the two new and interesting things, I would say. One time you can get the read-only tag. It will contain all the information about the custom mob saved in an NBT tag, and for version independence you can just access it here with basically all the options you would expect. So setting all the kinds of data into the NBT tag, setting it, well, if you are sure the type is supported by the NBT format. Has key, remove key, get raw NMS tag compound is not enabled for API. So whenever you're trying to get it this way, you will get an unsupported operation exception. Well, sorry. Unmodifiable, well, the read-only tag is unmodifiable by itself, so calling unmodifiable here will just return the tag itself. Get value is, well, will return an object, can be one of those types depending on what's saved in there that's given. Set item stick, get item stick are implemented for convenience. So I guess this setting here is not enabled by default, which comes from, well, get read-only tag. Setting is possible with the editor. So you get the edit NBT tag and you get a watched NBT editor. This will log basically all the changes you're doing to this while changing stuff. And once you're finished, you just call save and invalidate tag, and it will, well, save the NBT tag of the custom mob depending on the changes you made here, and will invalidate this stuff. Note that you don't actually want to keep a reference of this. So if you're editing a custom mob, just get the editor, do your changes, save, and throw away the object reference again. Because if you just save it as the method name already says, you invalidate all API hooks you got from that custom mob. So let's just say you changed something, now you saved it, and then you want to change something again, but do not get a new instance of this via the edit NBT tag method. This editor is invalid because the information it has is outdated. So calling any method here will throw an illegal state exception. So keep that one in mind. Well, again, now all the operations are fully supported. You can set stuff. You can create a new tag, create or get. In case it already exists, it will get it. In case it doesn't exist, it will create it. Expected element type. Whenever you create an NBT tag list, as you might know if you want to deal with NBT tags, you have to define the type of NBT tag list in before. So, well, that's possible with the expected element type here. Get tag compound, get tag list can obviously return null. We get the NBT tag list, which also for the API has append new tag compound, append new tag list. We got the general list interface. Then again, get raw NMS tag list will return a unsupported operation exception here. Then you can also append an item stack, append new elements. This will return false or true depending if the overall list has changed. So if you if adding the new stack element compound or list failed, it will return false, and if it was successful, it will return true. Yeah, it will. You can also get the element type, the type of the elements that are saved in this list with get element type. You can get an element iterator. This also extends the iterable interface, so you can just go with a for each loop. This, the elements might return null. It's not normal that they will return null. That's actually a very special case. But I just wanted to mention it here, so that's why I just created a new interface for that one. You can, access one element of the list specifically, or just get the total size here. So those this is basically easy. Then the API tag compound. Well, this is also kind of given. This is basically just another version kind of the editor. So, nothing too crazy here. This is just go edit it, like whatever you want to edit, and save and validate and gone. So maybe one example here. Just go with a mob. Come on. Let's say we know we have a mob named test zombie, which I was pretty sure we had. So then we get the editor. Then let's say we are some other plugin that wants to save something to CustomMobs. So we have our specific subtag. Let's just say we are some sort of add-on. And this is a watch tag compound. So we have a sort of compound here. Then we can just set some int, basically an int, 500. We want to get some value. Just say some test value, and we expect it to be a string. We can just print the value. And so basically that's also like however you want to do it with lists, tags, whatsoever. And once you're done, let's just get rid of those again since they don't change anything basically. You just call save and invalidate tag. This will basically this will go through all the changes you've made to the tag, no matter how deep you change anything. To go over all of these changes and will apply it to the NVT tag of the custom mob and will save it into the tag. Yeah, as I said, don't save this into a variable. So if you just go private static editor and you assign this maybe at the beginning of a class or whatsoever, like in a constructor, don't ever do this. Because this depends on the object being able to be garbage collected. So all the references are cleared again. And if you save it into a field, you still hold a reference to it, and the garbage collector will not be able to collect it and get rid of the object again. But you should be familiar with that in case you're doing stuff with Java, which I expect you to do since you're kind of interested in the API because you're still here. or you still want to pay attention to what I have to say, but that's, I guess, now everything I wanted to mention. So those are the changes to the API. The in-game changes are basically cconfig changed over to /cspawn, and some changes to the world spawner I mentioned before. Or cNBT is a thing, so setting any NBT value that's known for the map is possible. If you want to look them up, just Google Minecraft chunk format and just scroll down to the entities. So then you can just see and read what all the different values exactly do. I will also link it into this video's description in case you can find it. And yeah, I guess that's it for me. And I will release the version 4.0 within the next days, or if I haven't actually released it yet. And well, hope you enjoy this version more than the ones before. So yeah, see you guys.